God Save the King. King Charles straight to the public to greet the people who have been waiting for so long, to exchange a few words with them as he arrives here at Buckingham Palace. King Charles III.
That's why I think they've got that. That's the end.
Interesting people of all ages, aren't they? Just looking at the faces and trying to just identify. There are a lot of British voices there, aren't there? I mean, normally at this time of the year, perhaps most of the people outside Buckingham Palace would still be tourists, but
so many people there gathered, wanting to just shake his hand. You can see the real sympathy with him as they stand there, the appreciation too, that he's come out here to greet people who have been waiting for so long.
yes. And I'm sure he will be touched and encouraged by the reception that he's receiving. All right, these are people who are perhaps committed and very much supportive of the monarchy. But you can see some faces which are clearly emotional. And as I was saying, there are people of every age and from all parts of society. And very supportive.
And all these shouts of God Save the King, something anyone under the age of 70 or in their 70s will not have heard.
About my age, yes.
But it's the real moment,
Yeah,
isn't it? It's the moment of change, hearing that.
Yes, it is. And this is what we must now adjust to. This is now the reality of our United Kingdom, which now has as its head of state a king. We haven't known that, as you say, for more than 70 years. And it does take a little bit of getting used to, doesn't it? You have to say, the king, God save the king, yes, those shouts that we can hear.
So many hands outstretched, so many people wanting to greet King Charles. Hasn't even stepped into Buckingham Palace.
No, and it's quite a long line. Again, I'm just looking at the aerial, and so I suspect, well, we'll just have to wait and see. He may just go walk in there
those
through
aerial views. Look at the crowds that have gathered. Everyone with their arms aloft. Everyone trying to capture that image on their phones. And the flowers there, you can see lined up by the railings.
And that, I suspect, is just a fraction of the number that we will see there by the time the state funeral does take place. I don't know for how long palace authorities will leave flowers there, but I suspect they may feel that they do need to leave them in place.
It does give you an idea of the crowds, the size of the crowds who will no doubt turn out across London in 10 or so days' time.
Yep, I think it will. I think it will surpass, well, who's to say that it will surpass the crowds that we saw for Diana's funeral or the Queen Mother's funeral, but it will be on a very, very big scale, a very large scale. I think we can say that without any doubt.
And the king has a busy few days, busy few hours, let alone days ahead of him. He will meet the Prime Minister this afternoon as king. He will make this address to the nation at about 6 o'clock. There's a service that's in Paul's. And then tomorrow the Accession Council, which is the moment when he is proclaimed king. It's not by law, but it is a tradition, a centuries-old tradition that goes back very many centuries, the moment that the nation is told.
Yes, all these traditional historical components coming together. As you say, the Accession Council, when normally the entire Privy Council comes together, but the Privy Council is now so large that I think there isn't room for them. So I think they've had to, if not ballot for it, they've restricted it to, is it 500 or 200? And I'm sure there's some Privy Councillors who aren't best pleased at the thought that they won't be there for the Accession Council, which will be a really historic moment, the Accession Council for a new monarch, where there will be an oath will be sworn, and generally the new monarch will say something. And as you say, that will all be televised live.
And that will take place not at Buckingham Palace, or a kiss for the new king. That all takes place not at Buckingham Palace, but at St James's Palace next door. The traditional seat, really, wasn't it? The home of the monarchy.
Absolutely, yeah. A much older building than Buckingham Palace, St James's Palace, which of course used to be where Charles was based until the Queen Mother's death, when he then moved across to Clarence House. But yes, and I think he will be. He really is going right down the line, isn't he?
Absolutely.
He doesn't want to disappoint anybody. And so many faces just sort of creased rather with sadness. A lot of tears will have been shed over the past 24 hours, won't they, in many households at the news, but this is the transition that we are witnessing, the different parts of it taking place. The King returning to Buckingham Palace, shaking hands with those people who have gathered there, people who are wishing God save the King and singing God save the King. Somebody
tries to do an interview. I'm not sure that will be taking place right now.
Well, the large protection officer wasn't going to have any of that.
Lots of smiles, lots of sympathy, and people just wanting to shake his hand, really.
Yes, and the sun is shining for him after the storms of yesterday. The weather has cleared over London. It's not a great day, but at least it's a dry day. So I suspect we're very nearly at the end of the line, and he will then be going into Buckingham Palace. No sign of Camilla. I don't know, we haven't seen whether she's following along a few paces behind him. I suspect possibly, well, we don't know.
This is I get the impression that this is very much a solo.
Yeah, it's his moment, isn't it? It's his moment. The King. There we are.
He is.
He's
up at the gates. He
yes.
has greeted an awful lot of people there, and now he can
take
in
the
flowers. Look at all those flowers.